How can you make the center mid position not very complicated? Welcome to Mastering the Center Mid Position. I played many positions on the field. Striker, winger, attacking midfielder, defensive midfielder. But to be honest with you, I've never struggled with any of those positions as much as I struggled with central midfielder position. Let me know in the comments what you think is the hardest position to play. Your focus has to be on point. Your first touch, your fitness level, your short passing, your long passing. All these attributes will have to be at the top level for you to dominate the central midfielder position. Basically, you have to have a flawless character on the field. You can change and orchestrate the flow of the game. And that is your goal as a central midfielder. If you are watching this video, you are probably playing for not as dominating teams. So your style of playing the central midfielder position will be quite different because you are playing for a weaker team. And that's why it's sometimes important to watch worse teams than Barcelona or Real Madrid or Manchester City. You can watch the worst teams and observe what their central midfielders are doing playing for worse teams. Watch teams like Crystal Palace playing against Manchester City and see what their central midfielders are doing when the opposition is actually dominating them. This is very important because your team not always will be dominating the game like Barcelona did back in the day. Because generally, this is gonna be the case for you and you're not gonna have a partner like Xavi or Iniesta beside you that's playing with you. So maybe the player that you're playing with, their positional knowledge is not very good. So you're gonna need to help your teammate to actually dominate the game with you, or you're gonna have to tell when to stay to your partner, when to push up or when to tackle and all this kind of stuff. This will happen. You won't always play with a great player beside you. So before you can actually improve yourself, you need to think, so how can I play with a player that doesn't know as much as I do? There are many different types of central midfielder. Some of the best duos the world has ever seen is Xavi and Iniesta. And these two were a flawless couple in the center of the field and dominated every opposition they faced against. Since there is tons of different styles of central midfielder, you don't really have to have a certain style to be successful central midfielder. You can be strong, you can be great at passing, you can be good at long passing or dribbling or 1-2 touches in the central area of the field. And this is probably one of the most critical part of playing this role. You must be incredible at knowing your position so you can read the game incredibly well to help your team out. Because positional knowledge as a central midfielder will give you the advantage on who to cover, who you should run after, or who you should be passing, or where you should be playing simple. All this stuff comes with knowing your position. There are only two players in the world that played and made this position very simple for themselves as well as for their team. And these two players are Xavi and Iniesta. I highly recommend you going and watching these two players, how they played together, as well as how they communicated and how they understood each other. These two players weren't only technical or really good at positioning, but they were incredibly simple. They made it so much simpler, they made their defending role so much simpler. When they kept the ball in their team, they didn't lose the ball too easily. In my opinion, smart way of playing this position was created by Xavi and Iniesta. Go and watch these two players on and off the ball, because that's significantly important for you to understand this position. When they received the ball, they didn't keep the ball too long individually, but they made these quick 1-2 touches where we used to call tiki-taka. And these two players playing this position with only 1-2 touches allowed their team to keep the ball where the opposition couldn't get a hold of the ball. And they made their job so much easier, but not using as much energy because most of the time their team had the ball and the other team had to run, so they didn't have to use too much energy. Their defending technique or style was actually not to lose the ball when they have the ball, which was done by them playing simple. And you can only do this if you know your position so well as a central midfielder, because you have to pick the right moment or the right teammate to pass the ball at the perfect time. One thing my coaches taught me in the past, that the best way to defend is to keep the ball in your team. This doesn't mean to be selfish. This simply means be simple, keep the ball, rotate the game, understand the flow of the game. Simply making the ball run instead of making yourself run. Having an incredible understanding of your teammates and great passing skills and knowing your position very well will allow you to dominate possession on the field. Of course, there's a time and a place where these types of players will have to run. And they still probably will have to run a lot more than any other position on the field, in my opinion. But reducing the amount of time you lose the ball in the central area will help you decrease the amount you actually run on the field, which will allow you to use your skills and which will allow you to think better on the field when you are not as tired. A central midfielder's position is quite obvious. Stay central. But occasionally when your fullbacks are going high or your center backs are pushing up, you might have to drop deep and cover for these two players that left their position. For the most part, it is your job to actually stop the opposition's counterattack. And that's why the communication level within your team is super important when it comes to being successful on the field. Because when your fullbacks are going up, they will have to communicate with you that they left their position and then you drop deep to cover for them. Or if your center backs are pushing up, it's your job now, drop deep to cover up for the player that left their position. This all comes with the communication and understanding one another on the field. Your coach will want you to keep the central channels very tight so the opposition doesn't progress the game from those central channels. You have to be in incredibly good communication with your strikers or with your attacking midfielders so they do the shifting so the ball doesn't have to get to you. But if the ball gets to you in the central channels where the opposition has the ball, now it's your job to actually go up front and then tackle these players. Because you are playing two central midfielders for the most part, it's gonna have to be both of you. And that's why your communication with your central midfielder partner will have to be great. So you are not both going at the same time to tackle these players. One of the reasons why Xavi and Iniesta were super successful, because they didn't make a lot of mistakes when it comes to this kind of stuff. But if you are watching this video, that means you are no Xavi or Iniesta. Well, not yet anyways. So my simple suggestion to you is to actually watch these two players and observe what they do when they have the ball and when they don't have the ball. It's more important to observe them when they don't have the ball, because you can always watch the games and see where the ball is, and everybody sees this. But it's more important that you see these types of players when they don't have the ball and see them what they do when they lose the ball, and all that stuff is very important to be able to be successful as a central midfielder. You also have to have incredible first touch. You have to have great passing skills, short passing skills and long passing skills to dominate this position. And another important ability to have as a central midfielder is how can you receive the ball under pressure. Because for the most part, you are a central midfielder and there will be the opposition behind you and very tight to you. So you're gonna have to be great at checking off from these types of players, creating a space for yourself to actually receive the ball so you can more comfortably turn around and look for your teammates, play simple. If you need to, play back and get the threat out of those dangerous zones where you can potentially lose the ball. Your goal when you are receiving the ball under pressure in the central channels will always have to be to keep a 90-degree body angle. So when you receive the ball, you're not facing back. And you already can't receive the ball when you are facing the opposition's net. But this is why it's important to keep that 90-degree body angle, so when you receive the ball, you can see the most part of the field, or you can actually quickly sneak to the other side as well, where you can make your decision, quick decision as a central midfielder to change the flow of the game or to progress the game forward. Because your main goal as a central midfielder when you receive the ball, to progress the game forward. This is also called the vision. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please drop a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to my channel with the notifications on. You can also become a member to my channel where I have a Discord group. We can discuss further and I can help you further with your football skills. You can also find my playlist over here. Thanks for tuning in and I'll see you next time.